Success never happens overnight, and it takes an extraordinary amount of grit, perseverance, belief, and conviction in yourself that is going to work out, as well as having the right systems in place, support system, and often mentors and coaches. And so, my friends, I am very excited for you to hear the interview today with Enas Latif. Enas came over to the States at the age of 19, speaking no English and being fluent in Arabic. She was born in Jordan and at a very young age got started in the real estate industry. And that's really where her career grew, which of course she had a ton of hurdles, but now here she is with over 22 years of industry experience. She's established herself as a highly accomplished realtor in the Buffalo-Niagara region and founded the Enas Latif Sales Team with a deep-seated commitment to serving Western New York and aiding other individuals in achieving their real estate objectives. Her role as an agent, she prioritizes using her extensive knowledge to simplify and streamline the buying and selling process. She definitely has a standard of excellence. She's a certified real estate negotiator, and she brings her expert negotiation skills to the table every single time. I can attest, Enas gets shit done. She is a team leader that instills the same client-centric ethos within her team and constantly ranks within the highest tier of hunt real estate among all of the other Buffalo-Niagara region as being recognized by the Association of Realtors. She also has a comprehensive set of credentials, including a GRI designation and certifications with buyer representatives and senior real estate specialist. She's a certified relocation specialist and a seasoned marketing expert. Wow, that is a lot. So whether you are embarking the journey of buying or selling a home, or you just need an expert to talk to or help you negotiate, Enas is your girl. And she also has a ton to share with us today when it comes to digging in, starting a business, growing it, and managing a team, all the while living a life at the same time. So my powerhouses, jump in and join me for this fun interview with Enas. All right, my powerhouses. I am here with Enas Latif, and I've got to say, I am really looking forward to you listening to all of the insights that she has to share as not only a real estate guru, but a mom and an entrepreneur. And you, my friend, have also been in business when it wasn't exactly popular for you to do so.
Yes, that is correct.
So welcome and thank you for taking some time.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole, for having me today. I'm so excited to be with you on this podcast for sure.
Yeah. So, why, if you don't mind, give us a little bit of insight in terms of like where you started, how you got started, and also, I'm throwing like 3 questions at you at once, but, in getting into the challenge of you starting, because you are very unique from, and probably one of the only entrepreneurs that we've had on the show actually, where, you weren't born here in the States and English isn't your first language. And so like you had a few hurdles from the get-go. So I would just love for everybody to hear your story and how you chose this field.
Yeah, absolutely. So I moved to the States in 1994. I was actually 19 at that time. And a few years later, my husband and I were looking for a home. However, we were getting frustrated with the process and frustrated with maybe realtors not taking us seriously. I don't know if it was because of our age or just they didn't have a process to guide us. And we're talking, this is before Google and before being able to research online how to go about buying a home.
Yeah.
So one day out of frustration, my husband sort of looked at me and he said, even you could do better. And the reason I think he said, even you can do better is because I wasn't from here. I didn't understand the culture yet completely. And as you mentioned, English was not my first language. So I looked at him and I said, you know what, you're right. And a couple of weeks later, he came across a little ad in the paper when we used to read the paper. And that ad was by Hunt Real Estate. They were hosting a breakfast seminar about getting into real estate career. And I was like, oh, it doesn't hurt to go to this. I attended the breakfast seminar and just immediately fell in love with the industry and decided to go for it.
And so you guys, like, Enas is no bullshit. Like, she is, don't let her be humble, like, absolutely, for sure, killing it in your industry. One of the top realtors. However, it didn't happen overnight. So, what's been some of your initial struggles as you were growing your business?
Well, when I started real estate in 2001, many people in our industry, professionals in our industry, were not of my age to begin with. Often real estate was a career that someone, took up or started after another career had ended. So as a, post-retirement, let's say, type of career for a lot of people, or a second job. Many teachers or policemen or so forth had a real estate license and were selling real estate in their free time. Where I was a full-time agent, one of the youngest at that time. And to top it off, again, English was not my first language, which was not popular in our area at that time to have professionals from different countries and maybe have an accent to go with it and so forth. And shortly after I obtained my real estate license, I also was pregnant. So I was a pregnant foreigner in my early 20s, trying to sell real estate amongst other peers that definitely did not look like me or sound like me.
Well, it's all right. And so, how did you overcome that adversity? Like, where, what got you to here? What are some of the things that you did?
I struggled quite a bit in the beginning, and I can't say that I wasn't discouraged. And I had thoughts about, this is not for me. It's not going to work. I just felt like a failure. Luckily for me, I did have a very supportive husband who just kept saying, no, keep at it. You're going to be great. And then I came across a mentor at one of the offices I worked at who just really helped mentor me in pointing me in the right direction. Of course, I had to show up and do the work, which I did, but pointing me in the right direction and reassuring me that, if you just keep focusing on the process, keep doing what you're doing, you will see results. So for the first about year and a half, 2 years, I just put my head down and made calls, prospected, did open houses, did everything I could possibly do to generate business and build a clientele. I also, because I'm not from here, my industry, a lot of people in my industry rely on their center of influence for businesses when they first get started. Well, I didn't know anyone. So I had to build my own center of influence, attended many networking groups, started building relationships with people. And it took me a few years to really get going. But really focusing on the process is what made the difference, and having that mentor pointing me in the right direction regarding that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that early on you got a mentor. I think that's one of the things that I did wrong, which I would have gotten a mentor or a coach sooner. And because I can relate to a lot of that. Not that, of course, I, dealt with not speaking English as my first language or coming here. But I also started in the business when I was 21. I didn't have any centers of influence or any connections, or at least connections that you wanted to work with for financial planning, right? Like, drunk college kids weren't exactly an ideal target client. So, it took so long to dig in, be super gritty. And I don't know about you, and I'm guessing it was similar. Like I had to work 10 times harder than my peers, who are all older, middle-aged white men, right? Who just had this natural confidence and affluence and network. And it's like, I had to prove time and time again, like, hey, I'm not an idiot. I'm smart. I know what I'm doing. And really establish that. And I think the one thing that saved me was those systems and digging in, and I attended like every networking event and every group and everything I could like get my hands on, right? To just try to grow that network. And so it was quite a journey. And, in speaking to that and something that you had said really and saying, I thought I was going to fail or I thought about quitting, right? And so your husband was supportive, which is great to have that partnership. I think it, in marriage, that's typically a make or break, right? And especially when you're a business owner, and having that. But what were some other things was there anything that you did like that you told yourself, or a routine or anything that really helped you continue to dig in while you were working through the challenges of building up your business and making sure that you weren't just another statistic to drop out and shift gears?
Yeah, it's interesting that you said statistics, because really 60% of people who acquire their real estate license quit in the first year, and even a higher percentage by the second year. So you're definitely on point with that, because I did not want to be one of those 60% that quit in the first year. And I feel that once I maybe got reassurance that from someone else that could see something in me that maybe I didn't see in me, that regardless of not being from here, regardless of maybe my skin color and my accent and my age, that I'm more than capable. And all I needed to do is prove that. And once I got that idea in my mind, I feel like I became unstoppable. Like failure was not an option. And as I started building my business, I always felt like, what's the next milestone? If I can do this, I could do more. If I could do this, I could, and started the growth from there. I have been very lucky throughout my career to have people around me who are very supportive and believe in me and support my mission and vision too. So that's been great. But to your point too, mentoring and coaching, once I realized how important it is to have a mentor to point you in the right direction or hold you accountable, I consistently sought mentorship and coaching throughout my career. And every time I felt like I hit plateaued or felt like I'm stuck and I can't move forward, I signed up for coaching, or I signed up for a boot camp, or I signed up for something. It pushed me out of my comfort zone and maybe gave me some fresh ideas and new things to try and do and hold me accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that's part of it is like, if you are feeling stuck, like that is a signal we need to get uncomfortable, right? Yeah, we need to get uncomfortable. We need to shake things up and do something that maybe we naturally wouldn't do. And I want to go back to the comment that you said to Enas, where you're like, oh, I was very lucky to have a good support system and be surrounded by the right people. And I'm just curious, how much of that was actually luck versus you being really intentional about where you were putting your butt and who you were talking to and having conversations with? Because although some of it may be coincidence and luck, my guess is, knowing you, it wasn't that much luck.
I guess you're not wrong. Truthfully, I don't like to make room in my life for any negative energy or even negative people in my life, honestly. So you're not wrong about that. So people you meet along your journey and experiences you have along your journey, you got to take the positive and make sure you are very selective and intentional with who you surround yourself with, what type of energy you surround, and thoughts. Thoughts are a huge thing. So I don't like to allow any negative thoughts or feelings to take up so much space in my life, or any of that. So, and we all go through stuff, and that's totally fine. I think that taking a moment to honor how you feel about something or someone, and then being able to move on from there, take a moment, see how you feel, process it, and move on. Don't get hung up in that. I think that's a big thing for me, and helped me to be able to continue without being by anyone or anything. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And it's great advice for other entrepreneurs too, to just protect your mental health, but then who you're around fiercely. Because I know firsthand, being around the wrong people, or just not the right people for me, rather, can hugely affect my energy and my ability to feel confident or move forward or be creative, and that's one thing that I admire about you, Enas. And ever since I met you, I always joked like, I want to be in the best when I grow up and like roll in bed and look perfect. But you have this like cool confidence about yourself and I'm sure that came over time, right? As you learned more, grew more, and became more established, but you definitely present it so well. And I think for me, that's why I was also naturally attracted to you as not only being my realtor, but also being your friend, because you not only exude a confidence, it's not an arrogant confidence. It's a confidence of like, I know what I'm doing. I know what I want, and I'm not going to mess around, right? And that transparency and level of straightforwardness, but also your ability to cheerlead other women in the business or around you, I think is really special and really cool. So, and
it's funny you say that, because that's how I feel about you in so many ways. And, the sentence that you used, like, is naturally attracted to you, same. I just felt very comfortable with you from the first day we met. I feel like, we aligned in that thought process and those feelings and the way we maybe carry ourselves, but think about our life and what we want from our life and what we don't want from our life. I think it's so important to know what you don't want in your life. And as much as it is important to know what you want, right? So a lot of people focus on what they want, what their dreams are, but then they're not really looking at what they don't want and making sure that that's not inserting its way into their life and creating obstacles for them to get to where they want to be,
Yeah, totally. And subtracting is just as important as adding, right? And I find a lot of the time too, like we're more like the marriage, right? And we've both done a good job, and at least that I was a slow learner, but I think I'm doing a good job now of like being super intentional about who I'm hanging out with, right? And making sure that my friends are like not only like me from a sense of, hey, you're super ambitious, you're a go-getter, you're probably working towards something a lot bigger than you, right? Like you've got these big, huge aspirations, but also they're the kind of people who are going to push you to be better, right? Like I want you to make me uncomfortable. I want you to say, hey, you know what? No, you can do better. You should consider this or whatever. Like I'm so receptive to that. And sometimes it's nice to have the friends, or the people in your circle that care enough to force you outside of your comfort zone. And even like you had said early on with your mentor, like she saw in you before you saw in you. And that's huge too. And I think even for you now, and we'll talk about where you are now, is also why you've been able to successfully grow your team. So, and how many years now have you been in real estate, Enas?
23 years, going on 24 in April. It will be 24. And, for the team, it's been 10 years. So, and that happened on accident too. I don't want to.
Okay, let's hear that.
But to your point about, having people who are willing to have those tough conversations with you and push you further out of your comfort zone, and maybe tell you when you're wrong or tell you when you're not thinking clearly. I think it's so important that we are open to that. And so many people are not. They take it as criticism or they take it personal and their feelings are hurt, and I think that's why we get along so well too, because you can tell me as it is and I'll be like, oh, you got a point there. Or no, I disagree with you. This is why I feel about it and why I'm doing it that way. And you're exactly the same way. And I think that's something that a lot of people need to work on. And I personally had to work on myself for so many years. And once I allowed two things in my life, people who want to help me, once I was able to receive love and help. And once I also allowed constructive criticism and was open to it and was more open to honest conversations versus taking it personally, that's when I started my internal tremendous growth, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. And it's like, look, I mean, it's hard to hear that stuff. It's hard to hear what you're doing wrong or what you could be doing better. And because it hurts your ego a little bit. And sometimes it really does hurt our feelings. But I mean, at the end of the day, and I can't remember who told me this, but like the kind thing to do is to tell the truth, even if the truth doesn't feel kind, right? And I much rather have someone call me out of my shit or be open and honest with me, or tell me if I did something that bothered them. If and I might be oblivious to it. That's happened plenty of times. I'd much rather have them tell me and be transparent and forthright than talk about me behind my back. Like, I can handle it. Let's have a conversation. And I do feel that over the last few years, and I don't know if you feel the same way, like we have lost our ability to communicate and collaborate effectively with difference of opinions or different ideas. It's like, you have a thought that is different than somebody else and you're like lambasted versus the ability to say, hey, like, you know what? Let's chat this out, or I'm still going to love you, but I'm going to feel different. And some parts of that is so sad because I see it happen all the time, or people afraid to speak up now because they're terrified of how they might be crucified, for sharing how they really feel. And so I think it's in part probably up to us leaders and other women who are to some degree responsible of how they lead, but who they give permission to speak up, but then also be able to still get along, right? And I know I certainly facilitate that within my team and my company, and I'm curious if you do the same, because what I have learned, or at least feedback that I've gotten, is like, hey, you know what? When you did this, it gave me permission to do it, or I didn't realize it was possible, or I didn't know how the reaction would be or the response would be. So I was always super reserved. But then, I saw that you really didn't care or give a fuck in many situations. And she's like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna do that. And so I think that is important from the degree that when we do that, it may not always go well, and we might not like the reaction or the response, but it's important as leaders to make sure that I think everybody knows it's okay. Like, we need to be able to do that and also receive it in return and digest it to be a better leader, but also to grow. Like, if I didn't have better perspective and listen to my team and how I wasn't doing great, they might still not be with me. And that's super important too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think the approach with our team, with everybody, actually, communication is key. And it's important for us to learn to listen to others. And to your point, maybe agree or disagree, and maybe explain why you disagree if you do, see a different perspective or a different point of view of things. But at the same time, too, I think that, a lot of us, once we form an opinion, we stick to that opinion no matter what, and we're unwilling to change our mind regardless, which I try to practice the opposite of that. So I try to tell myself, hey, it's okay to change my mind about something if I learned something new about it that now makes it, a different fact than what I thought it was. Right. So I think a lot of people that once they form their mind, they just become so stubborn about it. It might be an ego thing. I don't know. But, communication, being willing to listen, being willing to hear other points of view and change your mind or change your perception when it's called for.
Yeah. And it's growth mindset. Honestly, it's like the ability to always be willing to grow, evolve, and then learn, right? And I've done the same. Like there's been plenty of things, years ago I'd be appalled at, certain decisions or what have you, but now I have a totally different perspective, and that's okay. I was to some degree, completely ignorant in a lot of areas. And as I've learned and expanded, and one of the things that I like doing too is anytime I have a specific opinion about something or I feel a certain way, I read a book written by someone who has the opposite perspective or opinion or feeling. And it's helped me so much gain perspective, especially politically, about reading different ideas. And it hasn't necessarily changed my mind, but it's allowed me to gain the perspective to level set, understand, and have a different level of respect, because I think that is part of it. And then, of course, both of us are constantly dealing with such a diverse group of people. And so it's so important to appreciate, I think, where they're coming from as well, so that you can do a better job navigating how to serve them best.
Yeah, absolutely. We all have different backgrounds and experiences and beliefs and even family dynamics and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So it is definitely important to be respectful of everybody else's opinion and feelings, regardless of whether or not they align with yours.
So shifting gears a little bit. Now you are, you have a team of, how many realtors do you have now? Are there 10 of you or how many?
Yeah, it's we're a total of 12. So it's
Okay.
myself, our team admin, and 11 full-time agents.
Okay.
And I couldn't be more proud of our team. They're amazing people. We share a very similar vision in terms of how we want to service our community and our clients. And we just, we have a great dynamic and culture within the team itself. But yeah, so we're proud that we ranked in the top 2 in all of Western New York in 2023. Yeah, and even 10 agents sounds like a lot. It's actually relatively a smaller team in number of bodies in comparison to some of the other. So we're really proud of our accomplishment, ranking so high. Agents on our team as well. And as you know, it's important to us having our clients have a great experience from beginning to end, and just, raving reviews and referrals and repeat business is the best compliment anybody in our industry can receive. So I'm proud to actually disclose that 65% of our business, more than 65% of our business actually comes from referrals and repeat business. So that makes me really happy. Mm-hmm. Tells me that we're doing something right.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
And I want to hear about what you're doing right. So because you are also, you're in a challenging position, because it's not like you're managing a team of 11 or 12 employees, right? You are managing a team of free-spirited sales agents. So they can kind of do what they want. And so making sure that you're wrangling them, but encompassing this like very well thought out team family dynamic, as well as keeping them on track, keeping them motivated, and coaching them to be referable and really emulate your brand of excellence. What are some of the things that you've found work really well over the years? And maybe if you could just share a few best practices, Enas, that you do now with your team that you found as a fundamental game changer when it equated to a shift that you saw, or something now that you're forever going to use because it works, it sticks, and And you know, for a while there, your team was even smaller, you know, maybe half this size. And over the last few years, you've really exploded in terms of not only your growth, but your team has stayed with you. You know, there's not turnover there. So I would love for you to share, if you could, some of those best practices, because I think it's super valuable for other individuals in your situation to hear that.
Yeah. So after a couple of years of starting the team, I started realizing that even though, to your point, we're independent contractors and we're all very different, and everybody has their own creative side. However, we still want to, what I do as a team leader, it's my name, of course, on the team, to provide the same level of service and consistency to our clients. So coming up with policies and procedures and systems to follow that everyone has to follow on the team, yet allowing them, each individual agent on the team, to create their own style within the systems and procedures and service that we acquire from them, and add their own personal touch to it. And then I, you know, of course, understand that one size doesn't fit all, right? So what works maybe for one person on my team in the coaching technique or the accountability technique or so forth may not work for the other person on the team. So I had to really work with them on an individual basis and create a coaching and mentoring and holding accountable system that works. Yeah, which you know, because you know exactly what I'm referring to. I think I learned from the best because I coached with you for a few years. You know, and being able to modify that. The other thing is, to me, what's been really working well is scheduling a monthly call with each one of my agents and just giving them my undivided attention during that 1 hour. Listening more than talking to them, to, you know, what happened during, this month since our last call. What are they working on right now? What are they going to be working on for next month? And where can I help and support them? What are they struggling with? What do they think maybe that we should be as a team doing or not doing, and working more in a collaborative or efforts, you know, with them. So I am the team leader, yes, but I don't think of myself as the boss, let's say. I think of myself, let's take an example of a school bus, right? And you have everybody on the bus and one person driving the bus. Otherwise, if you have multiple people driving the bus, it's going to crash. So myself as a bus driver, making sure that we're all heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
In that way, but collaboration is huge for sure, and tailoring things per the individual.
I love that. And everybody is so different and unique. And that was one of my biggest lessons too, in dealing with all these different personalities. But I love the approach of also asking for that collaboration and feedback for opportunity. That was a huge thing for us, because if you don't ask, they're typically not going to speak up. And so, and they're going to see things that you don't see, right? And they're also going to be able to give you insight that you just don't have time to observe. And so I think that is huge, and speaks to how you've been able to do what you've done, right? Which is awesome. And I think it's so exciting. And you are now in Florida as well, right? So expanding beyond Western New York and into Florida.
Which is not the secret.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so we are working now on acquiring our Florida license, and we're actually in the middle of speaking to some brokers in that area to decide who we're going to be joining and starting a team in the Florida area for sure. So we will be in Tampa pretty soon. Surprise. I know. No, it's okay.
Okay, anytime you tell me something that's a secret, maybe we should I think I'm just so excited about this because I want to buy a place in Tampa, and so I'm like, all right, girlfriend, let's go. But it's really cool. Yeah. Yeah. So anything enough that, if there is one thing, one piece of advice that you would want to give to other female founders and entrepreneurs before we end, what would that be?
I think that the number one thing that worked for me is focusing on the process and trusting that the results will come as opposed to, looking for that instant gratification. And just think of longevity of everything that you are doing, whether it's building a relationship with a client or with an employee or with a team member, just longevity and just focus on the process. Honestly, the money just comes when you do the right things.
Yeah, it's true. I've said that forever. And what I want to repeat here is, guys, nothing happens overnight. It takes time, and what we don't see are the years and years that you've been digging in and doing the hard work before you got to where you are now. And so, trust the process is huge, and execute, right? And the money always follows when you do the right thing. I can agree to that 1000%. It's literally the phrase I have lived by since I went out on my own. And where can people connect with you, Enas?
I'm easy to find all over where. So, but my website is Enas Latif Sales Team.com. And I'm also on social media. I'm on all the platforms, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. So it's just my name, Enas Latif, and you can find me. I'm on Google, obviously, as well. So I'm easy to find. My direct number, if anybody would like to call me or text me, is 716-417-4755. And usually that's the quickest way to reach me as well. But I do have to point one thing out before we get going to your last question. What I admire about you the most, that I want to or aspire to get to your level is your discipline. So I think of myself as pretty disciplined, but then, I look at you and I'm like, oh my gosh, you are just so strict with what you plan and what you hold yourself accountable to a degree that I've never seen with anyone else. And I aspire to be you one day with that, because I think that discipline is the most important thing for us as entrepreneurs and independent contractors, because no one else is holding you accountable. No one else is waiting for you to show up and do your work. Only you are doing that. So it's so important, for sure.
It's a great point. Nobody is going to care like you care, right? And I think we forget that, where, if we want to see something change, we're in the driver's seat. And there is no room, poor English, for excuses, right? But they're easy to make. And there's actually this book that I read recently, and I can't remember if I've mentioned it on the podcast quite yet, but it's called Uncommon Accountability. And it was so good. And unfortunately, it's not on Audible, so you do have to physically read it, which was very difficult for me, but I got through it because it was that good. But he talks about this economy, right? And this mentality now that's really shifted more so over the years, where so many people have this victim mentality versus an accountability mentality, but it's subtle and we don't recognize it. And it's been something that I've been so mindful in practicing over the years, because it's easy I'm so good. This may surprise you and us, but I'm the queen of procrastination and making excuses. And that is why I'm so disciplined, because I've had to set up all these routines and things in my life and in my day. So I don't get in my own way as often as I used to, or I could, because I know thyself, right? And it is scary out there sometimes. And so, it's really the ability to do that. And I think to that end, I've seen the difference, right? I have seen how I am without my routine, and I have seen how I am with it. And for me, there's like just no option because like you, I know exactly what I want and where I'm going. And so it's easier, I think, to stay in that zone or framework, like when you have that vision. So thank you. I appreciate that. And it is a great point. And I'd encourage you guys to grab that book too, if it's something that perks your interest. So thank you so much, Enas. We will have all of the links to find Enas in the show notes directly to her social media, her cell phone number, of which she so boldly gave. I mean, that is a big one. However, I can attest, like, you are constantly available and quick to respond. You impress me all the time. I cannot say the same. And so
it's all over Western New York.
It's true. Or not. I remember, like, okay, I've tried to like end this podcast 5 times, but like there was one, I'm horrible with texting, as you know, and there was one time I think I was like a little upset with you, and I'm like, I left out that you didn't invite me. And you did. I can't remember what the hell it was, but you texted me, and it wasn't on WhatsApp, and I couldn't believe I missed it, you know. But it was hysterical. It was probably like 3 months later too that, you know, the whole thing had happened. Like
Hughes Awards. So we made sure this time you got it multiple.
Yeah, I RSVP'd. I am there, multiple things, but so I guess my secret's out. I am horrible with my phone and texting. So until next time, my powerhouses, continue to be courageous.
Thank you, Nicole.